Hello, everyone that's joining. We'll get started with the webinar here in just a moment as everyone's getting logged in right now.
Yes, thank you, Kent. I think we wait another minute and then we kick it off.
I think most people joined.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're ready to go. So also from my side, hello and welcome to this webinar this afternoon on the 3rd of December. Regarding the topic, we have the fast and data-driven decisions with an automated cloud data warehouse, together with my colleagues here, Kent and Peter. We are happy to show you some information about how you get fast data-driven decisions out of your company and how you can do that with a cloud data warehouse with the newest technology. If we start, I want to first introduce to you who's going to present to you this webinar. 3 people of us. I hope you can see us and you can hear us properly. First of all, I want to introduce to you Kent, which probably all of you know already. Kent from Snowflake as a Chief Technical Evangelist. Kent is known for his cloud data warehouse experience, as also as his experience in the DataVault environment, and also for many other things he's doing around that place. And I think he will also give you some insights in his part later on. Peter also here with me in the webinar. He is the founder and CEO of the company 2150, the company behind the DataVault Builder, which we will see afterwards, where he will show us how he is doing DataVault with his tool and how he is doing, most of all, DataVault together in combination with Snowflake. And last but not least, myself, Philipp Hirsbrunnen. I'm your host presenting today, and I'm going to do the introduction to the topic. I'm going to give you some topic around the whole thing of the cloud data warehouse, meaning I'm going to introduce the whole story, telling you or asking you why should you become a data-driven company and why it is highly recommended to do that these days. But before we jump into the details, I think everybody of you is quite used to webinars these days. However, I still want to mention it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them anytime. You should see a Q&A section in your Zoom tool, so please use that. Ask your questions anytime. We will then pick them out and ask them at the appropriate time. I think most likely we will pick up all the questions at the very end, so we have all of them together and can then prioritize them. But please feel free to ask. Peter, Kent, and myself are happy to answer your questions. And how is going that to look like this in the next around about 60 minutes? I'm going to start with the topic I said, the data-driven company. Why should you become one? But how you do that? I want to give you some impressions, some insights, some inputs. What are the relevant aspects? How do we do that with our customers? How do we support them? But and of course, how we do that in combination with technology. And there will Kent introduce Snowflake to you, but not only introduce Snowflake as a general tool, but also give some insight in some specific functionalities, great functionalities, which then will be picked up by Peter in his part for the DataVault Builder. And he is going to show you how these technology features in combination with the DataVault Builder will give you the ultimate experience in a cloud data warehouse. And at the end, we're going to show you some examples. We're going to show you 2 examples how we did that with our customers, how that could look like in reality, and what are the benefits and the experience from our side. So you have not only the theoretical view on that topic, but also hands-on cases which show how they can go. Cool. So I would say, let's start directly with the first topic. And as said, the first topic is the data-driven company. So becoming a data-driven company is a message you hear these days everywhere. You hear it in the press, you see it in magazines. And of course, many consultants are telling you, you should become a data-driven company, otherwise your company will not last these days. But as many things, data-driven company can be seen as a buzzword like other things in the digital world. And you can ask yourself, why should I become a data-driven company? And actually, it's interesting to see there was a study in Switzerland which shows that nearly 80% of the companies, they consider data-driven business to have great potential on their business in terms of their competitiveness and in terms of their capabilities. However, most of these people or these companies, they don't know exactly what it really means to become a data-driven company, or more importantly, what kind of foundation is needed to do that. What do they need to do to become a data-driven company? If you look at the theory and look why you should become a data-driven company, of course, there are many aspects shown. And some of them are, for example, the advantages are you get faster decisions. For example, for your innovation, you can make innovations much faster. You can make better decisions because they're based on data. They're not based just on your gut feeling. They're really based on facts. You become more efficient, more productive, and many things like that. There's even a study from the MIT Center of Digital Business which says that data-driven company or company which are mainly based on data-driven decisions are making 4% higher, or having 4% higher productivity rates and even 6% higher profits. Well, that's the study, that's the theory, but how does it really look like? I think we all agree that the data is the basic, and another buzzword, data is the new oil, which is going around for years now. But I think the analogy to oil is very useful, because I think, and that's the main aspect of the story, that analog to the story with oil, the true value of oil does not lay in the oil itself, laying down somewhere in the soil, living there for centuries, for millions of years. But the real value you get out of oil is while extracting the oil, while knowing how to use the crude oil, refine the oil, and use it for other functionalities. And this is similar with data. Every company has data, more and more data every day. But the thing is, where you really can create value is that you identify where your data is, and you understand how to extract it, how to refine it, and how to use it, and how to deliver it to your consumers of the data. And this goes even further, that you can look at the topic data will become even more important, as today data and data infrastructure, such as, for example, databases, they are considered today as cost centers. In future, they might become profit centers because they generate profit for you because of better insights, consumer insights, things like that, because of it enables cross and upselling. And it gets even further into the discussion that data becomes an asset. It gets relevant for valuation for companies. So if you look at that story compared to oil, we are at the starting point, and it becomes even more important over the next year. So actually, if I'm telling you that story now, it seems pretty obvious and pretty easy, right? Extract the data, refine it, and use it, and you're all set to go. You're a data-driven company. Well, as you know, actually, it's not that easy, of course. One main driver why it's not that easy today is we are living in the VUCA world. VUCA, maybe some of you know that acronym. It's an acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, and with all these aspects, it gets more and more difficult with every day to handle the data you're already having in your company, but also even more difficult to handle the data which gets into your company with every day, every second. So what you can do, you can work with that, you can cope with that with a framework. A framework helps to make sure that every relevant aspect is covered, is considered and brought into aspect, and so you can decide how to proceed. And when we're working with the topic, we are working with a very simple framework, which we call the information supply chain. So we're really looking at how do we get information out of data, or how does data become information from our point of view? And if you look at this graph here on the screen, if you look at the very left, you see the data. So the crude oil in the soil, which nobody really knows how to work with. And on the very right, the information, which is then consumed and used by people in your company, by your customers, your partners, or other applications in your company. These processes are combined by two streams. One of them is the data strategy. You define and decide for yourself how to work with data. What is the value of data in our company? What do we do with data? Has data a relevance in our business model or not? How do we work with that? And the data management at the very bottom. So you support your activities by management activities, for example, with, as also commonly now, master data management, for example. And what do you do then? You go on the first step. You discover your data, you go into the deep and you extract the data, so to say, and you bring it to the front, but mostly you can't really use that data. You have first to prepare it, you have to refine it, maybe to clean it, enhance it, before you can deliver the data, and the data becomes to information. So this is the approach we are using as a framework to work with data, to understand where the problem lies when we were working with a customer, and where we can use appropriate technologies and methods to get most of it out of your data. And one approach we are using to do that is the model-driven approach. The model-driven approach, why we're using that is that we are convinced that models of your company, of what you're doing, helps to understand your business much more. You understand what is the impact of your doing, what is the impact if you're changing things. So what we do with models, we try to map the real world, what you can see here on this picture on the very left. So your business processes in the real world, what the people are doing, you try to map them in a first step in a process model. I think process model, for example, with BPMN, is commonly used, and for the last 30-40 years has a high acceptance, so nobody's talking about that. But if you're going a step further and want to say, we want to go into analytics, we want to get out of, we want to get insight out of our data, you have to go a few steps further. And talking about this, I would like to highlight what you see at the very bottom, the value and the TCO elements. So what we have in the real world, in the business processes, we generate value. Everybody knows about that. We generate also value. If we map that into processes, we can work with them, we can enhance our business, and so on. We also create values with the analytics model, with our reports, with our dashboard. Everybody is looking for that reason for more insight with reports. But everything in between, the technical part, and this is exactly what we are talking about today. So your analytical databases, your analytical structures, there is only cost in most people's mind. So if you have only costs but no real value, you need to make sure the costs are really low. So, and one approach to do that is standardization and automation. So if you are able to standardize what you're doing in that part, and if you are even able to automate what you're doing in that part, you can bring down your TCO and you can raise your value on both other sides even more. And as I just mentioned, in a dynamic, uncertain world, it's even more important to have these steps automated and dynamic, because the world on the left side, the business processes, they are changing every day. So the business is coming every day with new requirements, new ideas. And then the question is how you get them very fast into value on the very far right side in your analytics model. And one thing, or one approach to do that is, of course, with technical solutions. And yeah, we're lucky to have two of them here right now in the webinar, which can show how they can do it. And as just mentioned, at the beginning, apparently they both work perfectly together. So if you combine them, you can really go into the direction that you can create fast and better decisions. But let me hand over to Kent. I think he can better explain how they are supporting that process with Snowflake.
All right, thank you, Philip. So I switch gears here. Yeah, no, we're in a very exciting time with the industry and how things are changing. And in order to deliver value faster, people are looking for a way to be more agile in their engineering approach, and that's why we end up talking about Data Vault as really an agile engineering approach for your data warehouse and your analytics platform. To be really successful, it also helps to build it on an agile data platform itself, and that's where Snowflake comes in, and what I'm going to tell you about over the next couple of minutes here on the webinar. For those that don't know me, again, I'm Kent Graziano. I'm the Chief Technical Evangelist at Snowflake. I have a blog called The Data Warrior, and I was actually one of the first certified Data Vault masters in the world, which is why I'm on the call today to talk to you about Snowflake and Data Vault. In case you don't know much about Snowflake, we've actually been around since 2012, and we're recently IPO'd and listed on the New York Stock Exchange. In fact, had our first quarterly earnings call was actually last night here in the US. When I joined the company in 2015, 5 years ago now, there was only 100 employees in the company, and we were just based in the US. And obviously, we've now grown dramatically with well over 2,000 employees worldwide. I helped launch Snowflake in Europe, and even launched Snowflake in Switzerland there last year, where I got to come, and we had a couple of events there where I got to talk to people about Snowflake there in Switzerland. So we're going strong, and we're very happy to be helping people in your market now. So let me talk a little bit about Snowflake and put it in context for what we're doing here these days. So we talk about the Snowflake Data Cloud now, and it's a global network where thousands of our customers are mobilizing their data with near unlimited scale, concurrency, and performance, which really helps them to be agile in adjusting to the rapidly changing demands in the business with the data that you're having to deal with. Inside the data cloud, organizations have the ability to unite their siloed data sets and easily discover and securely share other governed data sets to do diverse analytic workloads. Whenever data or wherever the data is, Snowflake can deliver a single and seamless experience across even multiple public clouds. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. The Snowflake Data Cloud enables really three key things: access, governance, and action. By access, we mean that organizations can discover and share data without physically moving it at really a near unlimited scale. So as your data demands are growing over time, we automatically expand the storage capacity just in time as you need it. So you don't have to pre-allocate anything. So this allows you to be very agile and not have to worry about the infrastructure as your platform is growing. Governance means that it's a lot easier to know and control your data in a way that enables collaboration, but still maintaining the highest levels of security and compliance, which is critical these days. And on the action side, we were really talking about that you can empower every part of your business, really democratize the data so that folks can get better access to the data, build better products, make faster decisions, and create maybe even new revenue streams to realize the value of this untapped data asset that many of our organizations have. Now, Snowflake's innovative platform is the engine that's empowering this data cloud. It's technology that provides storage and compute and services that organize the data and make it very accessible and easy to use and agile in scaling. Snowflake really allows you to build a truly agile end-to-end modern data architecture. So the question is always, what's so special about Snowflake? Well, that lets this sort of thing happen. It's really the only data platform built from the ground up exclusively for the cloud and delivered as a service. It's a single platform that enables secure and governed access to all your data, so you can eliminate data silos. And we help do that through the architecture that Philipp just showed you, with putting a central data vault in place and bringing all your raw data together into a centralized business model and eliminating those data silos. But at the same time, we can support a wide range of workloads with performance and scale needed to support your business analytic needs as your organization grows and your data grows and the number of users accessing the data grows. Now, we started out known as the data warehouse built for the cloud, but our customers have gone far beyond that with data lake implementations, data science, and data sharing applications. And in fact, I've talked to customers that are using the data vault methodology for their data lake and are exposing their data vault models to their data scientists and allowing them to traverse the entire vault model to do their analytics and machine learning. And Snowflake's really the only solution that allows you to do this and eliminate all the complexity and cost that came with other legacy approaches that often required multiple technologies in order to make the same sorts of things happen. And as I said before, today we're definitely global with regions all over the world and available on all three clouds. So regardless of your preference for Google or AWS or Azure, there's a Snowflake deployment that will let you use our product. So let's take a look at what makes Snowflake really unique and cool and works well with Data Vault. And it really is all about this architecture that I mentioned. This is what got my attention first. What makes it so unique is this groundbreaking architecture called the multi-cluster shared data architecture that really enables all these cool features that I'm going to talk about. We've separated compute from storage. So Snowflake allows you to spin up and down on demand independent compute clusters to power all your loads and your queries without any contention. And this is where the agility comes in, to be able to have one set of compute that's powering your data vault loads and different sets of compute that are totally independent for querying the data vault and building the business vaults and building the information marts and empowering dashboards and data science all at the same time with a single set of data. With these virtual compute clusters, when the job's done, the nodes can be automatically set to turn off, so you're not spending money when you're not needing to. And the platform is completely ANSI SQL, it's ACID compliant, and it's fully secured with end-to-end encryption. And it's all managed for you via the cloud services layer that we've built. So there's really almost nothing in a traditional DBA sense that you need to do. And it's all totally new code. So it's not a revision of another code base. Our founders started from scratch so that they could build a system to truly take advantage of the elasticity and the power of the cloud. Now, one of the really cool features is zero copy cloning. And this is definitely one of my favorites. I wish I'd had this decades ago when I was trying to build large dev and QA environments. So it really helps out with the data ops aspects of setting up and managing environments to be able to have a full copy of your production environment for doing development and QA and testing. It really typically takes less than a minute to clone 1 terabyte of data. And that's because it's really doing metadata pointer copies. So you're not having to really copy all the data under the covers in Snowflake. The files that we use, our proprietary system, are immutable. And they're all pointers from metadata. So we simply copy the pointers, give it a new name, and it's pointing at the very same data files that production is. But because they're immutable, as production evolves and grows and you add new data to it, your effective clone is really just a snapshot. but it allows you to have that full copy and all access to that data without having to duplicate the data, without having to move it around. So it makes it very, very quick. And you can do this cloning at a database, a schema, or a table level. And it's really very easy to do. As you can see from the SQL here, it's create or replace table, my table name, clone, original table. And that's it. And you're done instantaneously. We have this great time travel option as well, which allows you to take a clone of the data from a point in time in the past. So for example, on Friday, take a copy of the database as it looked on Monday morning if you want to do a comparison. You can do before and after. You can take a copy after your new ETL process is run or before your new ETL process is run. So you can do before and after image copies without actually having to move any data around. And it's instantaneous. Also from a regulatory perspective, being able to take a snapshot at any point in time and be able to restore back to that. All kinds of really cool things you can do that helps you manage your environment better. Now, Snowflake's secure data sharing is a really unique capability that makes the Snowflake Data Cloud very unique and powerful. It allows access to data in a very frictionless manner. Because there's no copying or moving of the data, a Snowflake customer can designate data for sharing. So think about a curated information mart, or maybe it's a business vault, and you set it up as a share and grant permissions to other Snowflake account holders to read it. So this means people in other companies that you're partnered with, you can share this data in a read-only manner with them. So to them, it just looks like a database. And you can just revoke it with a simple command as well if you don't want them to have access anymore. So this allows people to explore and query data in place without ever having to get physical access to it. And that, because of this, it means that there's zero latency. So as you update with your ETL processes, as soon as they query, they're immediately going to see this data, because we're not waiting to export the data from your database and move it across to FTP and then import it back in. And so that really is really kind of a game changer there. Now, so talk just really briefly about what we're seeing from a data vault perspective on Snowflake today. This is really implementing data vaults as a growing industry trend here in 2020. I've been on literally hundreds of Zoom meetings discussing data vault with companies all over the globe. And there's really three main groups that I am seeing as I do this. The first one is because everyone's really kind of looking to be more agile. You got people that are new to data warehousing and analytics, and they're looking, what's the best pattern for modeling my data as I embark on a data cloud project. There's folks that have been doing data warehousing before on legacy platforms, and they're now looking at going to the cloud and saying, should we be changing our approach? Did we have issues with agility in the methodologies we were using before? So should we really look at Data Vault and take the opportunity as we move to the cloud to change our architecture and change our approach? And then, of course, all over Europe, in Germany and the Netherlands and there in Switzerland, I see lots of organizations that have been doing Data Vault often for a decade or more. And they're looking to see, can we do Data Vault on Snowflake, and what are the best practices for doing Data Vault on Snowflake? And of course, the answer is yes. And I've written a series of blog posts about how to best implement on Snowflake. Today, we've got well over 300 customers who are building data vaults on Snowflake and been very successful. We've published a couple of use cases recently and even had a few webinars with our customers. So you're going to see more and more discussion about data vault on Snowflake. So with that, let me turn you back over to Petr now, who's going to show you how DataVault Builder can make it so much easier to build a fully documented data vault on Snowflake in a very agile manner with his Data Vault automation product. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. I'm waiting for. Good, I should get control. So welcome everybody as well from my side. My name is Petr Beles. I'm in the data warehousing industry for now about 20 years. And about 8 years ago, I came in first contact with DataVault, and I was really impressed by the methodology, but we found out that automation is a crucial part to building up data vaults because it creates a lot of different objects on the database level. And that's why we started back as well in 2012, our DataVault Builder product. And we were very, very happy when Snowflake came on the market because it solved a lot of the issues we have with conventional databases because it was really built for analytical purposes. It was exactly made for that, what we wanted. So we'll present a little bit why it works so well together. Okay, so what is the DataVault Builder? It's a model-driven data warehouse automation tool. It means you start with what as well Philipp was saying, you come from the business side, you define your core business concepts, you define your relations between them, you define which kind of attributes you have for this concept, and the tool itself translates this from a logical data model into a technical data model, and it implements it directly on the database. As we are working mainly with the ELT approach, means we are loading the data first into the database and letting the database do the work. We rely on a very, very powerful database, and there where Snowflake really was coming at the right time to support these processes. So we are very, very happy that this combination works out. And just a little bit about as well some analyst view. They top ranked us last year for product satisfactions, price to value, but as well time to market, which is our main focus. So we are very, very happy that Bart did this analysis last year and came to the same conclusions that what we do for our daily business and we try to optimize. So how does it work with Snowflake together? We have different layers that we cover with our automation tool. Yes, it's the data vault section itself, but it's more than that. We're coming from the source system using our ETL loads in that case up to the staging area, but you can use as well the built-in Snowflake methods to stage your data because the database is supporting so much connectors, so much file loadings from S3 and everything. So you can use that and we can pick up the data that was already staged by Snowflake with an intra-database loader. So it's well working together. From there, we are taking the data into the raw vault, which is if the business keys are clean. And if you have a proper business process, it will work out. If not, and that's as well where Kent was saying, you can use it as well like as a data lake option. If you go like to persistent staging, stage your data already integrated on technical keys. And from there, we are taking it as well into the dimensional model and the business rules. And from there, we are taking the data further and create a presentation layer where your reporting tools can connect to. And all of that is happening in the DataVault Builder tool. And all of that is happening on Snowflake because we are adding the orchestration bit, but storing all the elements and all the data in the Snowflake database. If we need to process the data, we send commands to the database, which is then processing the data that fast as it can on the technical level. So why does this work out so well? Snowflake and DataVault Builder are cloud native. There are new technologies. They were built for the cloud times that we have today. So it's not like something that we need to maintain with old code. It was created everything that it runs well on all the cloud providers. We are supporting all the cloud providers that as well Snowflake does. So you can freely choose where to run your DataVault Builder together with your Snowflake database. What does it mean for performance? We can, with the database, load really billion of rows in a few minutes. We posted some outputs of that, of the performance test. It really works out and you can scale up and down within seconds. It's really cool that if you don't need the performance, you can be on a smaller load warehouse and save costs. In times where you really need to get fast speeds out of your database, you scale up, you do your queries, and after that you can scale down again. And I haven't seen that with any other database. As well, the database performance allows us to create a lot of virtual layers. So back in my diagram here, we have the dimensional model and the business rules, and it's possible to create most of it if you don't need it for auditability reasons to store the results of your calculation in a virtual mode, means using views. So we are generating views on the Snowflake database, and you can query these views in live queries as it would be tables. You get the results immediately out of it. And what do we add to it? We make applying, testing, and deploying changes to your data model and your documentation very, very fast. We reduce risk in changing your data model, because changes to your data warehouse is always having impact at different ends, and using a modeling tool will help you to derive a proper working technical models. And what we do as well, we are not just like a pattern generator like other automation tools are, but we maintain our patterns over time. Means if Snowflake introduces some new features, we update our patterns, and we send to our existing customers as well update scripts to improve their technical data model. And we can do that because we are creating the technical model derived from the logical business model, which is based on your business model. So how does this work like? So usually we start working with customers, or our partners are starting working with customers, talking about the core business concepts. They model it, they create relations, they connect different elements together, and immediately that's then derived into the technical model. So you don't need to look at which kind of tables are created, which kind of views are created on the database level. That's happening automatically. You can concentrate to talk to your business users on the business level. What we are adding as well, because we manage the whole process through all the layers, we can output a data lineage from the left, from the source system to the staging tables, to the core layer, to the business objects, as we call it, which generate our dimensional model, to the business rule section, to the presentation layer. So you get a full data flow through all the layers in your data warehouse, generated automatically while you're editing your data model in the core. What we do as well is we use a special approach. A classic approach to automation is that you have a modeling tool, you press a button, you generate or define your data model against the repository, and at some point you press the button and it's generated to the database. The problem with this approach is it works well if everybody is following the process 100%. As probably most of you know, this doesn't work out over time very well, because you have maybe a production incident, you need to do changes to the database, the model is not updated. As soon people discover that there is a disconnect, more and more people start doing changes on the database instead of in the model, and the stuff gets disconnected. So we sorted that out by removing the repository. If you work in the DataVault Builder in real time, the elements are created technically on the database. And if we start the DataVault Builder, we read from the database the real implementation into the DataVault Builder. So you can go there, you could delete some hubs, some satellites, and we would accept it and say, okay, you changed the data model, you changed the physical implementation, so we need to adapt the logical data model. And this solved us a lot of problems, because this allows us now to deploy very agile every element that we create. So if you add like a new hub for your sales, if you add a hub for your invoices, you can roll out this immediately, and even in an order as it was not created. So stuff that was created later can be rolled out earlier, which is really, really cool, and which is necessary if you want to become agile. And to pick up what Kent was explaining in his part, as we are not storing any metadata or anything outside of the database, you can connect the DataVault Builder to an instance or to a database within your Snowflake account. And if you want to set up another environment like copy production to pre-production, so you do this zero copy cloning, you start up another environment connected to the copied or cloned database, and it's perfectly running as if it would be the original. You don't need to reconfigure anything, because all the data is stored in the database itself. So it makes getting in the direction of data ops very, very simple, and it's very, very fast. Usually, to set up a copy like this takes minutes. And if you think about it, how long it took with classical databases copying around data, you know what it means. Another example, you can use the same for cloning your development environment into a sandbox. If you get a new developer and he shall work with a complete copy of your data, not just a subset where he maybe don't discover any edge cases, just clone your development box into his sandbox, start up a new instance, and you're ready to go. He can do all the changes he needs for one Jira story on this. And when he's finished, there is automatic deployment built in, deploying the stuff back to your integrated development box. So everything that you've built around all the tools to get your development process running is built into the tool, and it's perfectly supported in this combination with Snowflake databases. Automated deployment, there are different ways how this can be achieved. One is you can connect directly between different environments and deploy only selected parts that you want to deploy. We are as well supporting a fully Git flow based process. This means that based on the technical implementation, we derived a logical data model that is defining your data warehouse, and you can check in this logical data model into Git. And you can't just check it in. It allows you as well branching and merging your data model. So you can really distribute different Jira stories or your Agile stories to different developers. They can develop on its own, and then you can merge together the results of the different developers in your integrated branches. What we are adding as well, documentation comes for free with the tool. And that allows us to use the power of the cloud to save time, and not only by loading data really fast, by as well applying changes really fast and get you top in time to market. This means if in this world, as it was described by Philipp, which is volatile, your source systems are changing, if you get new data streams, if your partners get you new data, it's really, really fast by the Data Vault approach as such, and by automation by the Data Vault Builder, to bring your data very fast in your core and out. Usually, for a technical implementation of this process through all the layers, it doesn't take you more than 20 minutes in a production-ready manner, including documentation, including preparation for the deployment, including all the updates that you need to do in your documentation. So I hand over to Philipp.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Peter, and also thank you very much, Kent, for presenting us the two solutions to us. And I think what was mentioned many times was to be agile. As said, in this dynamic, uncertain world, to be agile is really a requirement these days. But to be agile doesn't mean only the organization models like Scrum and stuff like that, but also on your technical side and your methodology on the technical side. And this is exactly what we have done, for example, with one customer. So to give you an example, to give you an impression what we've done here, we had the honor to work together with Pistor. Pistor is a wholesale company here in Switzerland, which is delivering mostly food and pharmaceuticals. And we had the possibility to build with them their first data warehouse, so to say. So they had really the green field, they had nothing before, they had also not that experience in building up such data platforms. And with the possibility of, for example, Datavault and also Snowflake, we had the possibility to implement very, very fast from zero, from the green field to a running pilot, and also have the agility in between to adapt new requirements in between and still be on track and delivering fast results, which the customer could have seen or has seen then as a result. And not only the technical people, but mostly also the business people, which were demanding this solution to have insights in their data. And of course, the pilot itself, which was then built, is not the end of the story. But they built the whole thing to last for years and also to be extended in the upcoming months and years. So the flexibility, the scalability, which is given with a method like Datavault and the technical basis from, for example, as seen from Snowflake, gives the company as well as us the possibility to do that in a very easy way, and to try things out and change things very easy to their changing business model, which is as you could imagine, these days changing a lot. This is one example how you could use or how you can work with Cloud Data Platform and Data Vault, but Peter has another example to show you.
We had one client in Germany and they're producing machines for gyms. This means this is sensor data. It's really measuring how you operate this machine and it's giving you a lot of data. And they needed a data platform that is able to cope with a lot of data coming in because they need to analyze how their machines are used, how maybe costs can be reduced, how new opportunities can be created. And they wanted to have one pipeline on one database platform where everybody can get access. But as well, they wanted to get it orchestrated in a way that it's future-proof. And they decided for this combination as we presented it here, and they were able to produce the first output after first sprint. As it's an agile development, the target is not to produce perfect output after first sprint, which sounds maybe not as well as you would like it, but it's about adapting to change and deliver working data. Means it's the similar like working code. Working data is data that gives you first insights, which gives you the right direction to develop the next iteration. And it's about reducing cost of change. And if you know that your cost of change is really low, you can deliver data very early on in the process to your business users. They can already start to use it, understand it, and refine the requirements and the direction in which direction it shall go. And here we had really initial loads with billion of rows, which is working fine. You just scale up your data warehouse, your load warehouse in that time that you need that. You can reduce it later on for your delta loads or for daily deliveries and stuff like that. And their target was to have really time for their essential work to lower their maintenance. And that's what we reached here with such a combination, because as Kent already mentioned it, for Snowflake, you don't need any database admins. It's done automatically for you. For the DataVault Builder, there's very low maintenance because we are delivering it using a Docker deployment pipeline. So it's very simple to install, update, and run and operate your platform.
So Peter, this is really a IoT use case, right? We're actually getting information off of these devices and flowing it into the platform, right?
Yes, as I understand it. With all my limited understanding that I have of all our customers' businesses, yes. Good.
Great, thank you, Peter, for that insight. So we're quite ahead of the time, but I want to keep enough time for questions. I think there are already some questions I would like to cover. However, I don't want to miss to make a very short conclusion of what we have heard in the last 45 minutes, because we started the webinar with the question or with the saying that become a data-driven company, and also with the question, but how to become a data-driven company? And you have seen now or heard many aspects. What are elements on the journey to become a data-driven company? And I would like to pick out 3 of them to summarize what we have seen. So what main aspect we are convinced is very important is that you get an overview of your business, and to get an overview of your business from an analytical point of view, or to deliver analytical insights. It's like to have a map on an adventure to understand where you are, where are the possible ways, where are coming from, and what are the impacts if you're doing something. And especially not just knowing what you're doing, but also be capable to change things, to adapt to things. And this brings me exactly to the second point, and this is speed. Also to do these things very fast. As Peter and Kent mentioned in their parts, is that everything you do is instantly, simultaneously. You can do that from different parts from the world at the same time. You can do that with almost no delay. You can do it fast if you need it fast, but you can also slow it down if you don't need it fast to save money. Because speed matters these days even more than the years before, and it will be even more important in the years to come. And if I'm talking about speed, it's not a speed in changing things, so in the development process, but it's also, for example, in speed for fast data loading, or what we have seen with the zero-copy cloning. Be fast in trying out things and not waiting till the system is ready and you can bring in your ideas. But bringing it in your ideas instantaneously. The third part, the scalability, is looking into the future, because everything, as I mentioned, in the use case, you do that for years, for the years to come. So you build a POC or your POV, whatever, and it works, it looks fine, everything is good, but you want to expand, you want to extend what you're doing, you want to increase your volume fast, you want to integrate other areas of interest in your company. Your business is asking for more use cases. They're asking for further things like data science. So you need to adapt to these requirements very fast. So you cannot afford to build a basis which is already old 1 year after the go live. So your solution needs to be scalable. And this is the third point we have seen in this presentation today. Of course, to be fair, these are not all aspects which need to be covered to become a data-driven company. Of course not. This is not what we want to tell you today, but we wanted to give you some insight what are key elements in becoming a data-driven company from an analytical perspective. And of course, all other aspects like an overall company strategy, the people, the processes, the capabilities in your company, and so on and so forth. They are also very important to be a holistic data-driven company in the end. Good. Is there anything to add from your side, Petr or Kent, which I maybe have missed before we jump into the questions?
No, I think that's good. We've got some good questions I think we want to get to here in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see that.
So I've got one that I just wrote the answer, but I want to cover because it's a Snowflake and Datavault question. And then Petr, you can address how Datavault Builder handles it. But on Snowflake, because of the fact that we have this time travel feature and under the covers, we have the immutable files, the question is my understanding correct that insert only mode would be the best in Snowflake and eliminate the use of end dating on satellites? And in fact, yes, that is the recommendation on Snowflake, that you use the insert only approach and eliminate end dates. And in fact, that's in line with Dan Lindstedt's Datavault 2.0 best practices. In the Datavault 2.0 world, the recommendation has become to do insert only and eliminate end dates. And many of our customers on Snowflake are actually using analytic functions such as lead in order and putting views on top of it to form sort of a business vault view if you want to see the most current row. So you actually are projecting a virtual end date or a virtual active record flag, if you will. And I've published in my blogs the code on how to do that. So that was a really good question. Petr, how does Datavault Builder handle that? Do you generate end dates, or you give people an option to do insert only?
No, we are not doing any end dating because yes, for the given reasons that you gave, and as well the problem is that the end dates usually in Datavault are quite meaningless if you're exporting data, because you're usually not outputting data only from one satellite. You're joining together different satellites, different links, different hubs, and you need to recalculate your time slices anyway. So the end date is only meaningful after you did what we call the business object, when you linked everything together, and then, as you say, using analytical functions to end date stuff, because only then it gets a real meaning. And that's what we're all talking is about, the data warehouse timeline. Yeah, not to be confused with the business validity timeline.
Yeah, another quick one here just on Snowflake. Is it possible to use Snowflake in a private cloud? And the answer to that is no. Snowflake is public cloud only. There is no private cloud option for Snowflake. Let's see. So Petr, can Datavault Builder work on premises database as well as Hive or HBase?
So even if you're a cloud native, you could run as a backup the Datavault Builder on premises due to the Docker deployment, but it wouldn't make any sense if you use it with Snowflake, and Snowflake is one of the recommended options of us. We are not supporting Hive and HBase because of the joint performance, which is, in our opinion, not sufficient for data vault models. You could use other relational databases, but we strongly recommend to use an analytical database as Snowflake for data vault.
Okay, how is the Snowflake account configuration set up in DataVault Builder? So roles, virtual warehouses, things like that. Is that all manageable within DataVault Builder?
Yes, so what we are doing is that we use per environment, so like your production, test, or dev environment, we use one Snowflake database. So you can control the permissions on this grain. And the application itself is connecting to a technical user that you can define to this database. And within this technical user, we are then using the different roles that you can apply on the Snowflake side to change into these roles to find control permissions. But yes,
Okay.
a longer answer to get more into technical details.
Yeah. Folks, I know a lot of people are putting questions in the chat. If you wouldn't mind, please put those questions over in the Q&A panel. Let's see. Cloning does not inherit roles and users assigned to the database. So you would have to build that in the new cloud cloned database. And yes, that's true. And that's on purpose, because if you're cloning a production database for development or testing or sandbox purposes, you don't want your production users automatically having access to that development environment, and vice versa. You wouldn't want your developers necessarily, and especially when it comes to compliance, in many cases, developers are not allowed to have access to production databases. So yeah, we don't automatically clone that. You want to have your scripts ready once you clone the database to then grant the roles, the proper roles to that clone database.
Yes, that's correct. And that's as well what we support, because we say you need then to use another technical user to connect to this database. Otherwise, you would have a serious permission issue.
Yeah. Okay. If you use DataVault Builder, is it possible to get a diagram of the data vault structures generated?
So the question is on which level? On the conceptual and logical layer, you model in the tool, you see it. The technical model, we are not displaying in the tool itself, because usually you don't need to work with that. If in the case you want to visualize it, as we create foreign keys definition on the database, you can use any database visualizer that connects to Snowflake, like dbeaver or any other tool, and you can visualize this right away, and it will extract correctly from the database. But I would say, except for very rare cases where you're like tracking some optimizations or whatever, or some special queries, you don't need to connect to the database level in most of the cases at all.
Okay, Dasawan said we use Irwin to deploy to our Snowflake environment. This is eliminating that. So yes, if you were using DataVault Builder, you can use DataVault Builder to do your modeling and deploy to Snowflake. You would not necessarily need Irwin as your data modeling tool anymore, unless you're doing something other than DataVault inside of Irwin. So you definitely could replace all your data modeling with DataVault Builder. Right, Peter?
Yes. The point is, we have sometimes customers that have their model like in some other tools, and we provide like ways to migrate over your data models to the DataVault Builder. If you can extract in any way the metadata out of your existing tool, like a list of hubs, like list of links, then we can give you like the command line commands to create them in the tool. So you don't need to visually click like 100 hubs to add them. But there's always some manual, usually rework done if we migrate data models, because usually if they were not created with automation tool before, they are not created in enough consistency that they can be migrated completely automatically. That would be a lie. So yes, a lot of things can be automated for the migration, but not everything.
Yeah, I have one question about best practice to move from SAP BW to Snowflake. That's kind of out of scope for this. I believe we actually do have a blog post on snowflake.com/blog about working with SAP and moving SAP to Snowflake.
Okay.
Any plans to release Snowflake in China? Not that I know of, but I'm not on product management and deployment. So to the best of my knowledge, no immediate plans for deploying Snowflake in China, but we do have Snowflake deployed in Singapore. So that is the closest that I know of.
Okay, I like the one, does Snowflake support temporal tables? In fact, that's something that we introduced in the DataVault Builder with version 5.3, where we really split the current view and the past view as other databases do it for temporal tables, and adding std type 2 only for the changed records to deduplicate data, but to have the current view as well. So we are doing it in DataVault Builder. I don't know if you do it natively, Kent, in Snowflake.
I mean, it depends on what you call temporal tables, and we have time travel, which gives you bitemporality on all Snowflake tables. If it's enabled for 24 hours automatically. If you're talking about temporal tables as it's implemented in other architectures, no. I think DataVault with satellites being type 2 style gives you that temporality. And I know one of the folks in the data vault community has even done talks on doing bitemporal data vaults, so which is just really technology agnostic. Right, we are at the top of the hour here.
Okay, so maybe there was a question about CI/CD. How does it work? How to answer that in 30 seconds? The point is that usually you can work on a Git flow-based process. So you have like your integrated dev environment, which you take your model, you check it into Git, you branch off your feature branch, you go into your sandbox, buy a zero-copy clone, do your changes, then you check in the model that was changed back into Git, you push your branch back, and then you can build all your automations on top of that, like using Jenkins and everything to do automatic deployment tests and then integrate it back into your dev box. But that's probably something for another hour to go through this, but it's built in the DevOps, and it's really well supported by Snowflake by this zero copy cloning, which is really cool.
All right, isn't join performance a limit for columnar databases with DataVault? Snowflake is not a columnar database. It has columnar compression, and that's a misconception that many people have. Join performance is not an issue. We have people building virtual information marts, virtual business vaults, all on top of very complex data vaults in Snowflake, and performance is absolutely not an issue.
I can confirm that as well, that joint performance on Snowflake is very, very great.
All right, I guess, yeah, we're at the top of the hour here. So I think we're gonna have to conclude our webinar, huh, guys?
I think so too, yeah. I think we can maybe answer the last questions which came in just in the last minutes on the website where we published the recording. Peter, what do you think?
Yes, you will receive all an email with a link to the recording where you can review it and where you can share it. So that will be no issue. I thank everybody for all the interesting questions. And
Yeah.
thank you, Ken, for joining us here on this webinar. It was an honor having you here.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah, also from us, thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Kent, for your inputs. And thank you, everybody, joining us for this session. And we wish you a very great evening. And yeah, looking forward to our next session together with you. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. If somebody likes to stay on, I will try to answer the questions I can using text, just giving you short feedbacks. And have a nice day to everybody else.
Okay, guys, I need to jump off. I have another meeting to go to. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
I'll look
Thank you,
forward to,
Kent.
we'll catch up with you a little later.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good. So I think I answered the questions. It was a pleasure. Have a nice day and thank you. Bye.